Welcome to the Autonomic Homeostasis Activation podcast. I'm Tom Pals.
And I'm Ruth Lorensson. We'll be unpacking what it looks like to activate your brain to holistically manage stress and trauma to facilitate homeostasis.
Being free to experience wellness in body, mind, and spirit.
Thank you for joining us. Let's get this conversation started. Well, we're here and we're talking about the brain again. In this season, really, well, we've been unpacking and focusing on the brain itself. And we've done this is, I think, our fourth season in the AHA podcast. And I've really enjoyed having these conversations with you, Tom. Today, what we're going to be looking at is the sympathetic nervous system, specifically.
Yep.
We've talked about it before, but we're going to really think about the sympathetic nervous system and how it impacts change. And what we mean by change is, like when we all have those moments where we know we need to change something. We're seeing a pattern in our lives and we're like, I need to change. We all have them in January, right? Where we're like, year's resolutions or whatever. But it happens from time to time in our lives as we live our lives out. We know, we see things and we're like, I need to change that. But the sympathetic nervous system is an interesting, let's talk about the name first, because I was saying to you, it doesn't feel very sympathetic when you're stuck in the sympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
But tell us the meaning of the name, because it really isn't sympathy.
No, not that version of it. Sim is with. That's what sim means. And the PATH is emotions, feelings. So feeling with, and the sympathetic nervous system definitely feels with what's happening around us.
Yes.
And within us.
Yeah. So we were saying earlier that, the question is not how you feel, but like, what are you feeling with? Yeah. So
yes.
Think about I would encourage listeners right now, just think about your morning today. What have you engaged with, like in social media?
What have you emotionally connected with?
Yeah. Like, today, if I went on my social media threads, I would see the threat of Ebola. Then a couple of weeks ago, it was the hantavirus. So I'm engaged, my sympathetic nervous system is engaging with to some level. And that is, some people will engage with it not much. Some people will fully engage with those things. But it's engaging with those like big world stresses, these perceptions of threats are all around us.
Oh,
and then we have our own lives.
Yes.
Just like, what am I doing in my career, or worrying about my kids, or
how much is gas today?
Yeah,
and
or can I afford stuff, or absolutely.
Yes.
And so, but I think to recognize that we do feel with things,
yes,
is key, and we get to choose what we feel with.
Yes, the sympathy and how we respond to it. So the sympathetic nervous system is part of homeostasis. We're not going to survive and thrive if we can't sense threats to surviving or thriving. That's inherently protective. We are literally neurologically and biologically wired to detect threats to well-being. That way, as an organism, we can survive when we encounter a threat because the brain is wired to protect us from threats.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, how the sympathetic nervous system, especially in today's cultural movement, where we're talking a lot about fight and flight, and anyone who's into any level of neuroscience, it talks about a lot, and it gets a bad rap because it's like, it's seen as the enemy, and it because of fight and flight and all of that stuff. But actually, it's not. Like, let's just remember, it really is an amazing part of our makeup that helps us survive. And eventually, if it works with the parasympathetic nervous system in a good conversation, then it helps us thrive.
Yep.
So yes, like you say, we don't want to be defenseless, but the problem is not the sympathetic nervous system. The problem is the level of perceived threat to well-being.
Yes, and how we experience it.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's almost like, is there a tiger around every corner? Because
Yes.
you know, I was noticing the other day, Tom. You know, I had a bad accident. I fell a few weeks ago, and it's I fractured my T12, which is a hub of where the sympathetic nervous system
Yes,
is.
it is.
So I know from that my sympathetic nervous system has been heightened as I've been healing, and rightly so, and understandably so. But I've noticed that, you know, like I was walking around the block the other day, and I walked past a fence that I walk past every time I go on a walk. And they've got 2 dogs, and they ran and they barked at me, and they do this all the time. But mine, I jumped.
This time, yes.
I jumped because I was hyper aware of something. I was like, my sympathetic nervous system was so hyper vigilant that it was scanning for threat. Now, I only say that as a way of kind of thinking about where, like, as individuals that are living in an incredibly complex world right now, we have so much knowledge about things years ago we'd never even know about these things. And how hyper vigilant are we in terms of that sympathetic nervous system, and are we kind of jumping at every little thing that appears to be a threat, but actually, if we took a moment and thought about it, it really isn't a threat to well-being. And that's when the sympathetic nervous system gets stuck. And that's the problem.
Yes, it's where the sympathetic identifies a sensed or perceived threat to well-being, and it alerts us to that. What do we do with the alert? That's where we can either become overly focused on having been alerted to a sensed or perceived threat to well-being, or allow transition to the parasympathetic, which is relax, rest, recover, and even digest. If we don't allow the transition to occur from sympathetic to parasympathetic, then we're artificially continuing to feed the sympathetic nervous system. Did that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
and
that's
why it gets a bad reputation. But it's not the sympathetic nervous system itself. It's what we are doing to it.
It's like our mind's interaction with the sympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
So when our mind gets involved and we're like, you know, there's an alert has been sent, and then it's depending on our perceptions. And, you know, one person's perception will be entirely different from another person. They say that about, you know, stress and trauma, don't they? They say something can happen to one person that will completely traumatize them, and it can happen to another person, and it doesn't do that. So that's all about our history and our personality and the way we perceive things. So we all have an individual version of that. But when we kind of go, oh me, oh my, like what is happening? Then we kind of engage with our sympathetic nervous system, and actually it gets complicated.
Yes. So the sympathetic and the phraseology that goes with the sympathetic nervous system, again, for those who may not have heard the episode, Dr. Walter Cannon, mid-1920s, created the term homeostasis, a stable, steady state operates within a range, wants to maintain that. If it gets out of that stable, steady range of neurobiological functioning, can restore it to that.
Mm-hmm.
The sympathetic nervous system in 1915-ish, Walter Cannon created the phrase flight or fight as a protective function necessary for homeostasis to occur. We're not going to remain in that stable, steady state if we don't address threats to surviving.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's where in 1915-ish, he created the phrase flight or fight,
Mm-hmm.
which is very memorable and very helpful. I think it's more helpful to see flight as an effort to avoid a sensed or perceived threat to well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't, for instance, a rattlesnake, I should avoid that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the natural anxiety and stress that is provoked is functionally causing me to back away from a threat. Mm-hmm. Because if I just keep walking along, the rattlesnake bites my leg, I get poisoned, I may not survive at all. I should have that stress and anxiety reaction to it. And if that rattlesnake then comes toward me, then I should fight or manage the threat, again, protectively. It's when it stops being protective that we ourselves are compromising that natural protective function.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how we do that. Because the protective function of anxiety, we turn into, oh no, we obsess about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or the protective function of I'm feeling stressed. So a healthy response would be relax, recover, rest. But if I don't do that and I just keep feeding the stress,
Mm-hmm.
how common is it for human beings to keep feeding stress?
And then, like, literally people get exhausted.
Yes.
Because the point is that the sympathetic is a momentarily kind of engaging with this perceived threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not meant to be going on for 24
No.
hours. It's like a quick spike.
It's a protective alert. Do something
about it and then go back to rest, relax.
Don't continue to feed it.
Yeah.
There are people who thrive on stress. Well, okay, good luck with that, because eventually you're going to be stressed out and burned out. And how is that helpful for thriving? It's not.
So the thing that we wanted to kind of engage with in this episode, though, is not just because I think we've covered that before, sympathetic, fight,
Mm-hmm.
flight. We've gone right into details of fight, flight,
Mm-hmm.
and like you say, that avoidance,
Mm-hmm.
which is the flight. But it's like, well, when you're in that kind of stuckness, when you're in that you're constantly feeding the stress,
Mm-hmm.
you haven't moved, you
The
stop
anxiety.
play.
Yep.
It impacts change. Share about that.
It actually prevents change.
So we're not able to change when we're like literally stuck in survival mode.
Right. Because when we can't avoid the sensed or perceived threat to well-being, then it flips into the fight, which is an effort to manage the sensed or perceived threat to well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be some form of anger or depression. With depression, I'm trying. Or I'm trying and I'm going to, and I'm just, That often masquerades as change. We feel like we're managing, and we're changing something, but it's not a beneficial change. Is there change that happens when somebody gets into the fight response and gets really angry? Things change. Yeah, is that beneficial? No. Or somebody gets into the depression change. Does that evoke change? Sure it does. It may evoke sympathy. Oh, poor thing. Oh, or here, let me help you. But is it beneficial change? No. My point here is that the idea of change, something should change. That's not change. That's not beneficial change, because there isn't an adapting to the situation. There is an effort to manage the situation. Managing is not change. Adapting is change, but adaptation is consistent with the parasympathetic.
So what we're saying is that if we get stuck in fight and flight, you can appear to try and be like, well, I'm changing, but actually, if you're in the sympathetic nervous system, then really that isn't change. That's like it's, you're trying to manage something, is working out of those mechanisms that actually aren't real change. So it prevents us from, maybe we kind of stay surviving in that place, but it prevents us.
Or we may even be compromising surviving.
Yes. And often people do. Often people are really, I think there's so many statistics out there of like people going to the doctors, and half of the stuff is, half of the physical complaints that people have are stress and anxiety.
It's actually about 80%.
80%, there you go.
Yeah.
So, and that is a compromised state. It's like I've been in those places where I feel like, oh my gosh, my nervous system feels frazzled. This doesn't feel good. This feels like I'm on the edge. This is not, I need to walk myself back from the edge and somehow get into that parasympathetic. So real change, what we're saying is real change, healthy change,
beneficial
change. It really is in the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
So again, it's like the need to get unstuck is not just about making sure you're not compromised. It's not just about making sure you don't just stay in that survive place. It's also about, if you really want to change as a person beneficially, which we all do, that's our growth, right? That's our adaptability in these kind of complex. We need to change more when our world is a bit more crazy or chaotic. That's the actual time that we do need to adapt and change in a beneficial way.
Absolutely.
So that we can figure out how to stay healthy in that. But if we're stuck in sympathetic, we are not going to be able to do that.
No.
So that's this real need for us to understand how we get unstuck, how we enter into that parasympathetic, and make sure that flow between sympathetic and parasympathetic is working well.
Yes. And the very particular phraseology I use and the order I say it in is intentional. With the parasympathetic, it's relax. The sympathetic kicked in, threat to well-being, relax. Okay. Yes, there is a current threat. I don't have to stay in that threatened mindset. And if I lean into relax, that can be taking a breath, quite literally. If your sympathetic kicks in, flight or fight, avoid, manage, stress, anxiety, depression, anger, a really helpful thing to do is just say, stop, and literally breathe. I mean, literally breathe. So often people who are stuck in their sympathetic, they literally are not breathing. I mean, literally. Just in through the nose, out through the mouth. If you are breathing, you are sending a message to your body, it's okay. Physiologically. You're also sending a message to your mind, I'm breathing. I can breathe. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I can relax because I am relaxing by doing that. It's just a very simple thing.
Yeah.
There's many, many things that we can do that way.
I mean, I recently, like with my fall, and I said, you know, I've been experiencing kind of like this bracing a little bit when I'm walking around. It's almost, and I've had to literally, I'm walking around and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my whole body is stiff, and I literally have to go stop.
Yes.
And but I say it out loud. I'm like,
yep.
You're safe, relax. And
yep.
then I literally feel my muscles relax. It's okay.
Yep.
I understand why you would guard right now because of what happened. But actually right now is not then. Like, we are okay. We're good.
Yep.
So it's almost like you can coach your body, your mind.
You do.
By speaking it out, or like you said, the breath work we know is so powerful. Splashing some cold water on sometimes does it too. Just
it can be grounding.
Yeah.
Just touching fabric.
Or touching,
because
your jeans
that connects you to the reality of things. Then with the relax, then allow for recovery, because that happened. Something triggered that threat response. You may know what it was. You may not even know what it was. You may know why it was or not know why it was, but you can allow yourself a moment to recover. You don't have to keep going. You say, stop, relax, and then allow for recovery. And if you think about it, and I invite the listeners to think about it, there are things that you have experienced where you feel refreshed. Things that allow you to recover. It might be taking a brief walk. It might be whatever. So I'll try this with you, Ruth. Okay? So just stop for a moment and ask your brain, what are things that help me recover? And then listen. I'll bet things started popping into your head.
Yeah, I just saw myself. I love I live in Fort Collins, not far from Horsetooth Reservoir, but just like the lapping of water there, and also the sound, I think, of water, or being by a lake, being by a river. That is incredibly refreshing to me, and grounds me in a way that's more than normal, I would say.
Yep. And you just naturally use the word ground. And that's the parasympathetic.
Yeah.
Your brain said that. Your brain informed you of that. Ask. And your brain will respond. When we intentionally relax, then we can follow that up with being intentional about allowing for recover. And frequently, what may be in order is rest. Rest. take a break.
Yeah.
Whatever allows you to rest. Because all of these things are not only functions of the parasympathetic, they reinforce the parasympathetic, which is all about homeostasis, restoring or maintaining that stable, steady state when it's been disrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And digest. Allow for something, consuming something
Mm-hmm.
that's beneficial or nutritious or hydrating. All of these things signal the body we're okay.
We're okay.
Because change is a constant. No change is called dead. I like to joke. Oh, there's no change. Oh, wait, I'm not alive. There's always change. We can either adapt to that or be held hostage to it.
Mm-hmm.
We get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So choose.
Yeah, I think this is helpful. I think what we're saying is that, it's completely understandable in the days that we are living in
Mm-hmm.
to not assume that the sympathetic and the parasympathetic are just working as they were designed
Naturally.
to. Yeah. So, maybe there was a time in history where that was more so, and maybe it was just a few people that just couldn't get that working.
Right.
These days, it's actually been more unusual for it to be working as it was designed to. So we do need to be intentional with our nervous system.
And I think one of the things that has changed is just how much information is available to us.
Yeah.
Not to mention the intentional manipulation of all that
Mm-hmm.
for commercial purposes.
Yeah.
Triggering that sense of need. I've got to have this.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have this, it's marketing 101. Create a sense of scarcity and need.
Mm-hmm.
And then people respond to that.
Yeah. And then there's, we are living in turbulent political climate. We've had COVID. I think I'm sure the average person would say the last 5-6 years have been particularly heightened in terms of stress and anxiety. Mm-hmm. And I think that those are people across political spectrums, actually. It's not just one group. I think we're all feeling it. We've got things like climate change on the horizon, and we are in the flux of change. We've got AI. So that AI is happening at us quite fast.
Mm-hmm.
And some people find that a good thing. Some people find that really stressful. There's a lot of unknown about our future. We are changing. The world is changing quickly, and we are not at peace with one another a lot of the time. And so what that does to the average person, no matter who you are, is going to be incredibly impactful. If we're not intentional, we will feel with those things. And so that's our starting point right now. Mm-hmm. So I think it is and then on top of that, what we know is that if we want to change for the better, if we want to grow,
Mm-hmm.
Tom, you are a wellness coach as well as a therapist.
Yeah.
And, you part of what you do is help people on this path of wellness. And wellness, there's growth, there's change,
yes.
there's being adaptable. That's the whole point, yeah. And so if we're going to do that, we cannot be stuck in fight and flight. And so the odds are that unless we do something, unless we're intentional, unless we think through how we can engage with the parasympathetic and coach ourselves to operate within what was originally designed,
mm-hmm.
then it's going to be hard for us to change for good, change for the better. And so I think the word is intentionality.
Yep. And the words and I was wanting to get into this part, the words I associate with the sympathetic and parasympathetic are reactive and proactive.
Yeah.
The sympathetic flight, fight, stress, anxiety, depression, anger is all about being reactive. The parasympathetic, relax, recover, rest, digest, is all about being proactive. Recover is not passive. Recover is very proactive. I'm doing things to recover. There is agency in that. There is empowerment in that. If I'm not doing those things proactively, I leave myself in a state to experience the likelihood of reactive and that increasing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just stop for a minute and think, okay, given my life circumstances and all the stuff that's going on and I'm experiencing, am I being reactive or proactive? And you know, if you're just honest with yourself, I'm being reactive. Okay,
And
well,
again,
then
it's a
you're in the
sign.
sympathetic.
Yeah, it's a sign that that's where you're at.
Right.
And we know that when you're there and you're there too long, it will either compromise your system, or it will keep you in survival mode. And now we know that you're unable to really do some of that good, beneficial change in that space.
So be intentional about being proactive, aware that my brain is going to warn me reactively, sympathetically, to sense or perceive threat to well-being. Do something about that. Change it's just the nature of change, whether is it just change or is it change that I'm proactively pursuing beneficially. Now I'm in the parasympathetic. And by doing that, my brain responds to that. It's going, yeah, let's be parasympathetic.
Yeah. And I think, the more we can do daily to, like, with those things, stop, breathe, say things out loud to ground yourself, the more, and there's, like you said, there's lots and lots of ways available to us. The more we can practice that, the imbalance, there's an imbalance, isn't there? And it's, sympathetic's high. So the work is for the parasympathetic to say, no, we can get there. We can be proactive. We don't have to stay in this place of sympathetic. Let's take a moment every day if you need to, multiple times a day.
Moment by moment, yes.
And ground yourself, like, and get yourself into that parasympathetic. Allow your mind and your body to know that things are okay.
And it's follow those 4. Relax. Intentionally, proactively relax. Intentionally, proactively recover. Adapt to the situation. Recover from the sympathetic. Assault, threat, sense, perceived, made up, real, doesn't matter. Relax, recover, allow for rest. Be proactive about resting. That is not rewarded and reinforced in modern society. Rest? When? How? Can't? No, we can't. Choose to rest. Relax, recover, rest, and digest. And the likelihood is if you do the relax, recover, and rest, the digest will function a whole lot better.
Yeah.
If you don't relax, recover, and rest, what's your digestion like?
Not great.
Reach for the whatever. No. We get to proactively support the parasympathetic. It's there for homeostasis. If we are being reactive, stop. Stop.
So the reactiveness is a real sign. That's helpful
Yep.
to know. Oh, I'm reacting. Okay, I know where I'm at.
Yep.
And I know I need to move.
I get to choose the other.
Great conversation, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really good stuff, relevant for what we're living through in our days. And I'm looking forward to the next conversation with you. You've been listening to the Autonomic Homeostasis Activation podcast. Join us next time as we continue in our conversations with Tom.
If you're interested in pursuing your own wellness journey, please check out our website, autonomichealing.org.
You can also reach out to Tom at innerworkings.org.